Hi there, meteorologist Danielle Grant here with meteorologist Chris Bianchi. We are breaking in because we do have a tornado warning. This tornado warning right now is positioned just outside of DIA. So we want to get out to the radar because, of course, a lot of folks, it's Friday, trying to head out there, and you're probably looking at, well, some dark skies out there as well as some rotation. Chris, you're very familiar with DIA. The good news that the National Weather Service just tweeted out is that this warning does not include the terminal or the concourses out there. The threat is just kind of off to the west.
Yeah, so that would include the 3 runways just to the west of the terminal, as well as probably part of Pena Boulevard. So avoid that area. What we're likely looking at here, Danielle, and I think you just alluded to it, this is likely a landspout tornado, which means we have a weak boundary, a little wind boundary that's moving through this area. And then you can often get these tornadoes to develop as these storms first fire up. You're getting a lot of inflow into the storm, so you're getting a lot of rising air and converging air boundaries, and that's what's likely leading to this tornado warning on the west side of DIA. But Danielle, as you mentioned, this does not, I want to repeat, does not include the terminal. This would be for the kind of western half of the airport, including 3 of DIA's 6 runways.
That's right. So we're still looking at a few pictures that are coming in on Twitter of what's actually going on out there. At this point, weather spotters are just reporting some rain. However, there is some radar indicated rotation. That's why the National Weather Service just wants to be extremely careful in upgrading this to a tornado warning for us. Again, this is going to continue until about 4:15, so we still have about another 20 minutes to go. Of course, folks that are at the airport probably tuning in, going to the website, the app, saying what in the world is going on, because I'm sure folks out there are starting to see some action around.
Yeah, and obviously I think the big impact right now will be to travelers. You mentioned It's a Friday afternoon, it's the summer, so it's obviously a busy travel day. And needless to say, you probably wouldn't want to be a plane that's getting in or out of the airport right now. And there, I cannot imagine is anything coming in or out of DIA right now as the storm moves its way on through. By the way, again, if you're heading out to DIA, you're maybe on Pena Boulevard, or you know somebody who might be on Pena, just tell them, hold off there, maybe pull off on I-70 around the 225 area and let this storm move on by. So again, if you're maybe thinking, you might know somebody who's heading out to the airport, this is again not the time to be heading through Pena, especially as you get kind of a little closer to the airport, kind of halfway through Pena, or maybe a little bit later. That's where you could be seeing that tornado at this point. But as you mentioned, no confirmed sightings of a tornado yet, but it's potentially likely to develop here.
Absolutely, and I just wanted to zoom out on the radar too, so folks can get a good idea of kind of what's happening out there. Not a ton. So this once again kind of just popped up as we're watching those boundaries colliding, and that's where we're just looking at that tiny little speck on radar that really does not look like much. It's really all starting, Chris, from the ground, as we are expecting this is potentially just that landspout tornado. So we're seeing that circulation on the ground, and then it tips up. So radar really not that impressive. Typically, we're able to track these storms a bit further in advance, but landspouts are fun here in Colorado as they truly can just pop up.
Danielle, you mentioned it kind of as we were going on air here.
Yeah.
This is kind of Colorado weather doing Colorado weather things.
Yep.
This is not something that we see in meteorology textbooks. This is a landspout tornado, as you mentioned. These tend to develop as storms are first developing. So you've got a lot of rising air when a storm is developing. That's what's kind of creating a thunderstorm. And this is kind of one of those situations where it's a classic landspout tornado setup. You're getting colliding air boundaries right over the west side of the airport. And by the way, if you've heard DIA landspout tornado before, this is, goodness, I've lived here for 12 years. I can count on 2 hands the amount of times that we've talked about a landspout tornado DIA. It's in a kind of a geographic hotspot for getting these kinds of tornadoes. And again, this is a fairly classic setup for that kind of tornado. It's not to diminish it, but again, that's why you're not seeing a whole lot on a radar right now. What you're looking at, one little green speck. Again, that's the indication that we're likely looking at that landspout tornado right now. It's not a classic supercell thunderstorm, but right now, looking outside here in Denver, Danielle, we're not seeing a lot again. And looking out at DIA, we're perhaps not even seeing much in the way of rainfall. Probably more virga than anything else, rain that evaporates disintegrates before it hits the ground. So again, if you're looking outside looking for this thing, you're not going to find it.
Not much. I know. I'm just scrolling through several of our live cameras that we do have here in the Weather Center. And right now you can kind of see some of the winds beginning to pick up in and around the area. Otherwise, not much, as you said, Chris. As far as those wind speeds go, we have been monitoring them kind of kicking up from time to time. Of course, as we kind of look out there, well, looks more so on the eastern plains. We're seeing those stronger wind gusts. But again, right now, all eyes really have been on DIA and just outside kind of by the runways. As you said, as this cell is just slowly pushing up to the north, it appears. Again, it looks like the tornado warning going to continue for us at least throughout the next, I'd say, 15 minutes time, just so we can be safe. Still radar indicated. We have not seen any photos out there of anything of significance, but of course there is the potential for seeing a landspout out there. Oh, okay. I'm not sure about that, but we'll keep going on because it doesn't look like the National Weather Service has quite ended that warning for us. Chris, are you seeing anything?
I'm not at this point. My understanding is that the warning is still active, that the warning continues until 4:15. That is my latest understanding at this point. But want to kind of reemphasize some of those top line takeaways. The current tornado warning does not include the terminal. This is for the west side of the airport and Tower Road, so kind of Adams County, just the west of DIA. So again, this does not include the terminal. This does include parts of Pena Boulevard. So if you know somebody who's heading to or from the airport, they should not be on Pena Boulevard right now. Pull on over, especially if you're on I-70 right now around the 225 area, maybe just get off, wait this thing on through. It won't last that long.
No.
And this is obviously going to lead to big disruptions out at DIA. We've seen some issues throughout the day. It's mostly due to weather outside of the Denver area, but again, this is likely going to lead to some pretty significant disruptions out at the airport.
Okay, now it finally looks like the
go.
National Weather Service has since canceled that tornado warning. So good news on all fronts. However, we still are going to be monitoring the situation, Chris, as we go throughout the afternoon. The ingredients are out there for us to see potentially a few more, especially kind of in this zone right there in eastern Adams, Arapahoe counties, up there toward Weld County, I-76, heading out toward Brighton and Lochbuie. So again, the tornado warning just expiring, but still, Tom, Kim, it could be a very active Friday afternoon for us.